Hi, I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome to Adventures in History. Today's topic is the 1956 Cleveland Indians AL MLB baseball season. Again, the Tribe was playing in the American League, the junior circuit of Major League Baseball, and home games were played at Cleveland Municipal Stadium, downtown, where First Energy Stadium is now located. The Tribe had an outstanding year in 1956. They finished in second place with a record of 88 and 66, 22 games over 500, really good. Winning percentage of .571, 9 games out of first. The first place team was the New York Yankees, who were 97 and 57, winning percentage of .630. Second place, the Cleveland Indians, 88 and 66. Third place, the Chicago White Sox, 85 and 69. Fourth place, the Boston Red Sox, 84 and 70. Fifth place, the Detroit Tigers, 82 and 72. Sixth place, the Baltimore Orioles, 69 and 85. Seventh place, the Washington Senators, 59 and 95. And in eighth place, the Kansas City Athletics, 52 and 102, winning percentage of .338, 45 games out of first. From 1947 to 1956, only the New York Yankees and Brooklyn Dodgers in Major League Baseball won more games than the Cleveland Indians, who won 928 games. So that was quite an era for the Tribe, those 10 years. Tribe attendance was down in 1956. It was 865,467, or an average of 11,167 per game. Mickey Mantle of the New York Yankees won the Triple Crown. He hit .353 with 52 home runs and 130 RBIs, so he led in all those categories. A very unusual achievement and very impressive. Frank Robinson of the Cincinnati Reds was the National League Rookie of the Year in 1956. Of course, 19 years later, he would be the Tribe player manager and the first black manager in Major League Baseball. I read a fine book. The title is Ray and Me by Dan Gutman, 2009. The story involves time travel. 15-year-old Joe Stoshak travels back to 1920 and tries to save Ray Chapman, who was hit and killed when got hit by a pitch by Yankee pitcher at the Polo Grounds in New York City. Really something. Anyway, the Tribe owner, the leader of the ownership group in 1956 for the Tribe was William R. Daley. He was the principal owner of the Tribe from 1956 to 1962. Daley was born in 1892 in Ashtabula, Ohio, and died in 1971 in Cleveland, Ohio, at age 79. He went to Adelbert College at Western Reserve University and graduated in 1917. Daley purchased Myron Wilson's shares of the Tribe in 1956. In 1962, Daley sold the Tribe to a group headed by Gabe Paul. In 1969, he was co-owner of the Seattle Pilots, and Daley's group paid $3,961,800 for the Cleveland Indians. On February 29, 1956, the highest price ever paid for an MLB team, William R. Daley. Hank Greenberg was back as Tribe general manager, and he was Tribe GM from 1950 to 1957. Greenberg was also a part owner. He owned 19% of the Tribe. Greenberg said, quote, 1956 was a year in which the fans were discouraged, and the press kept the heat on. At the close of the season, the Cleveland News came out with blurring headlines on the front page of the papers. Break up the Indians. You'd think we had ended up in last place and needed to refurbish the entire team. That was the kind of press we had. I hate to harp on the press, but it was miserable. It followed me throughout my whole time in Cleveland, even though we usually had a first or second place team. It was always the same, always looking to find fault with management, find fault with what the general manager was doing. Under those circumstances, it was difficult to have a winning team on the field. Another thing they were wont to do was criticize when we had too many black players. Hank Greenberg. Now the Tribe radio broadcasters. Jimmy Dudley was a Tribe broadcaster on WERE radio, and Dudley was a Tribe radio broadcaster from 1948 to 1968. Jimmy Dudley. His partner on the radio was Tom Manning, who was a Tribe broadcaster from 1929 to 1931, in 1946 and in 1956. Manning was the radio voice for Ohio State football for 30 years. At Old League Park, he was a field announcer for the Tribe. He had a 4-foot megaphone. He would shout the lineups to the press box and the fans. Tom Manning. Ken Coleman was a Tribe TV broadcaster on WEWS TV. Coleman was a Tribe television broadcaster from 1954 to 1963. Ken Coleman. Jim Britt was his partner on WEWS TV, and Britt was a Tribe TV broadcaster from 1954 to 1957. Jim Britt. Al Lopez was back as Tribe manager. Lopez played for the Tribe in 1947 and was Tribe manager from 1951 to 1956. So this was his last year managing the Indians. He went on to manage the Chicago White Sox, and his last year as a manager there was 1969. Al Lopez is in the Tribe Hall of Fame and in the Baseball Hall of Fame. He resigned after the season. His winning percentage as manager was .617, which is a team record. And Lopez managed the White Sox from 1957 to 1965, and from 1968 to 1969. And during that part of that time, Bill Veeck was the owner. Lopez said, quote, Bill Veeck had what he called a circus day, and a bunch of elephants and clowns running around the ballpark, along with caged animals, lions and tigers, the whole damn circus. We must have lost the day before because I wasn't in real good humor. And one of the elephants laid one, call it a pie or whatever, about this big. There were flies swarming around it, and I'll be damned if I didn't almost step right in it when I went out of the dugout. It was awful. Lopez biographer Wes Singletary wrote, quote, with 6 seasons under his belt as the Indians manager, Lopez, tiring of the criticism of Cleveland's fans and media, resigned. John Kunster said about Al Lopez, quote, he called him the finest gentleman I have met on the Major League beat. Roland Hemmond wrote about Lopez that he was, quote, unquestionably one of the finest men ever to have been associated with baseball. Wes Singletary wrote, quote, for Al Lopez, the chase was always the game. He left the applause to others. Avoid the distractions. Keep to the basics. Come to work and compete. These were the traits that Lopez personified as a player and manager, and continues by example to embody today. In this resolute fashion, he remains yesterday's understated diamond gentleman, El Señor, Al Lopez. Tony Cuccinella was back as a Tribe coach. Cuccinella was a Tribe coach from 1952 to 1956. This was his last year in Cleveland. He went on to continue coaching for other teams. His last year was in 1968 with the Detroit Tigers. Tony Cuccinella. Mel Harder was back as pitching coach. Harder was a Tribe player from 1928 to 1947 and a Tribe pitching coach from 1948 to 1963. He threw out the first pitch at Cleveland Municipal Stadium in 1932 and the last ceremonial pitch at the stadium in 1993. Mel Harder. Red Kress was back as a Tribe coach, and he was a Tribe coach from 1953 to 1960. Red Kress. Bill Loeb was back, and Loeb was a Tribe coach from 1951 to 1959. Bill Loeb. Now the starting lineup, Jim Hegan was the catcher. Hegan batted .222 with 70 hits. He scored 42 runs, 15 doubles, 2 triples, 6 home runs, 34 RBIs, a stolen base, 49 walks in 122 games. And Hegan was with Cleveland from 1941 to 1942 and from 1946 to 1957. And he was the last position player left from the 1948 World Series champions Cleveland Indians. Jim Hegan. Vic Wertz was at first base. Wertz batted .264 with 127 hits. He scored 65 runs, 22 doubles, 32 home runs, 106 RBIs, 75 walks. He struck out 87 times in 136 games. And Wertz was with Cleveland from 1954 to 1958, and he was the Cleveland Indians Man of the Year in 1956. Vic Wertz. Bobby Avila was at second base. Avila batted .224 with 115 hits. He scored 74 runs, 14 doubles, 2 triples, 10 home runs, 54 RBIs, 17 stolen bases, 70 walks in 138 games. And Avila was with Cleveland from 1949 to 1958. Bobby Avila. Chico Carrascal was the new shortstop. Carrascal batted .243 with 115 hits. He scored 60 runs, 15 doubles, a triple, 7 home runs, 48 RBIs, 52 walks in 141 games. Carrascal was born in 1926 in Caracas, Venezuela, in South America, and died in 2005 in Caracas at age 79. For his career, he batted .258 with 55 home runs and 474 RBIs. Carrascal played for the Chicago White Sox, Cleveland Indians, Kansas City Athletics, and Baltimore Orioles from 1950 to 1959. He was a 4-time All-Star in 1951 and from 53 to 55 with the White Sox. He was the first in a long line of star shortstops from Venezuela, including Davy Concepcion, Ozzie Guillen, and Omar Vizquel. He was the first Latin American to start an All-Star game. Carrascal was an outstanding defensive shortstop. In 1946, at age 17, he hit the first home run in Venezuelan professional baseball history. 1949, in the minors for the Fort Worth Cats in the Texas League, his team won the title. He was the third Venezuelan to play MLB baseball. On the White Sox with Nellie Fox at second base, they had one of the best double-play combinations in the league. Carrascal had a cheerful disposition and a love of baseball and was very popular with the Chicago White Sox fans. In 1951, Carrascal broke Phil Rizzuto's MLB record with 297 fielding chances in 53 games without an error, which was later broken in 1969 by Don Kessinger. 1955, with the White Sox, Carrascal scored from first on a bunt. He went all the way from first to third on the bunt. The Orioles started to argue the safe call at third, and then Carrascal scored while they were arguing. When the White Sox picked up Louis Aparicio, he was traded to the Tribe. In 1959, he was hit by a pitch and lost 50% of his vision in one eye. He continued playing in Venezuela until 1967, was a manager for Leones de Caracas, and won a title in the 1982 Caribbean Series. He was a scout for the Kansas City Royals, the New York Mets, a color commentator for the Chicago White Sox in Spanish-language broadcasts from 1990 to 1996. He worked for community relations from 2002 with the White Sox. In 2004, he founded a nonprofit for underprivileged children in Venezuela and the United States, helping them to get from the barrio to the YMCA centers, museums and baseball games, and historical places in Venezuela. In 2003, he was inducted into the Venezuela Baseball Hall of Fame. In 2004, when Ozzie Guillen became the first White Sox manager, his first game, Carrascal, Louis Aparicio, and Davy Concepcion threw out the first pitch. He called it his proudest moment. He was a national idol and very influential figure in Venezuela. He inspired young Latin players. In Venezuela, he played for the Cerveceria Caracas, Estrellas Orientales, Licoreros de Pampero, Leones de Caracas, Navegantes de Magallanes, and Tigres de Aragua. Chico Carrascal. Al Rosen was back at third base. Rosen batted .267 with 111 hits. He scored 64 runs, 18 doubles, 2 triples, 15 home runs, 61 RBIs, a stolen base, 58 walks in 121 games. Rosen was with Cleveland from 1947 to 1956. This was the end of his MLB playing career. After years away from baseball, he returned and worked as a general manager for the New York Yankees. And his last year in MLB was in 1992 as the GM of the San Francisco Giants. What a tremendous life and career for Al Rosen. Gene Woodling was in left field. Woodling batted .262 with 83 hits. He scored 56 runs, 17 doubles, 8 triples, 38 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, 69 walks in 100 games. And Woodling was with Cleveland in 1943, 1946, and from 1955 to 1957. Gene Woodling. Jim Busby was the new center fielder. Busby batted .235 with 116 hits. He scored 72 runs, 17 doubles, 3 triples, 12 home runs, 50 RBIs, 8 stolen bases, 43 walks in 135 games. Busby was born in 1927 in Kennedy, Texas, and died in 1996 in Augusta, Georgia at age 69. For his career, he batted .262 with 48 home runs and 438 RBIs. Busby played for the Chicago White Sox, Washington Senators, Cleveland Indians, Baltimore Orioles, Boston Red Sox again, and the Houston Colt 45s from 1950 to 1962. He was an all-star in 1951 with the White Sox. He went to Texas Christian University. Busby was a fast runner, a good contact hitter, and a superb outfielder. During his he coached a number of teams. In 1961, the Orioles, from 62 to 67 with the Houston Astros, and also the Atlanta Braves from 68 to 75, and then back with the White Sox in 76, and the Seattle Mariners from 1977 to 78. In the minor leagues, Busby played for the Oklahoma City 89ers, the Waterloo Whitehawks, and the Muskegon Clippers. And of course, he also played for the TCU Horned Frogs. Jim Busby. Rocky Colavito was in right field. Colavito batted .276 with 89 hits. He scored 55 runs, 11 doubles, 4 triples, 21 home runs, 65 RBIs, 49 walks in 101 games. Colavito was a Tribe player from 1955 to 59 and from 1965 to 67, and a Tribe coach in 1973 and from 1976 to 1978. Terry Pluto wrote, quote, "It's impossible for Tribe fans today to understand what Rocky Colavito meant to Cleveland fans in the late 1950s and early 1960s. There was something special about Colavito to those of us who were eating our first hot dogs with stadium mustard, when he represented hope and power to a franchise that was lacking in both areas." Jack Torrey wrote, quote, "Tall, muscular, with dark good looks, Rocky Colavito quickly became a favorite in Cleveland. Before every at-bat, he would grasp both ends of his bat, lift it behind his back, and stretch his muscles. Young boys on the Cleveland sandlots liked to imitate Colavito's stretch. Rocky Colavito." Al Smith played a number of positions. He was really not a bench player because he played full-time. Smith batted .274 with 144 hits. He scored 87 runs, 26 doubles, 5 triples, 16 home runs, 71 RBIs, 6 stolen bases, 84 walks, and 141 games. And Smith was with Cleveland from 1953 to 1957 and in 1964. Al Smith. George Strickland was a middle infielder. Strickland batted .211 with 36 hits. He scored 22 runs. He had a double, 2 triples, 3 home runs, 17 RBIs, 22 walks in 85 games. Strickland was a Tribe player from 1952 to 1957 and from 1959 to 1960. He was a Tribe coach from 1963 to 1969 and a Tribe interim manager for parts of the 1964 and 1966 seasons. George Strickland. Preston Ward played some first base. Ward batted .253 with 38 hits. He scored 18 runs, 10 doubles, 6 home runs, 21 RBIs, 16 walks in 87 games. Ward was born in 1927 in Columbia, Missouri, and died in 2013 in Las Vegas, Nevada at age 85. For his career, he batted .253 with 50 home runs and 262 RBIs. Ward played for the Brooklyn Dodgers, Chicago Cubs, Pittsburgh Pirates, Cleveland Indians, and Kansas City Athletics from 1948 to 1959. He was a utility and a platoon player. In the minors, he played for the Newport News Dodgers, the Fort Worth Cats, and he was drafted by the St. Louis Bombers in the NBA. Interesting. Preston Ward. Hal Narragon was a spare catcher. Narragon batted .287 with 35 hits. He scored 11 runs, 3 doubles, a triple, 3 home runs, 18 RBIs, 13 walks in 53 games. And Narragon was with Cleveland in 1951 and from 1954 to 1959. Hal Narragon. Sam Mele was a utility player. Mele batted .254 with 29 hits. He scored 17 runs, 7 doubles, 4 home runs, 20 RBIs, 12 walks in 57 games. Mele was born in 1922 in Astoria, New York, and died in 2017 in Quincy, Massachusetts at age 95. For his career, he batted .267 with 80 home runs and 544 RBIs. was also a manager, and he won 524 games, lost 436 for a winning percentage of .546. Mele played for the Boston Red Sox, Washington Senators, Chicago White Sox, Baltimore Orioles, Cincinnati Redlegs, and Cleveland Indians from 1947 to 1956. He was the Minnesota Twins manager from 1961 to 1967 and won an American League title in 1965 with the Twins. His parents were immigrants from Italy. His nephew, he was the nephew of Tribe coach Tony Cuccinello. Tony Cuccinello was his uncle. He went to New York University. In the Second World War, Mele was in the U.S. Marine Corps. In 1946, he was the Eastern League MVP in the minors. He also coached the Washington Senators and Minnesota Twins. And managing the 65 Twins, he managed Hall of Famers Harlem Killebrew, Jim Cott, Zuilo Versales, and Bob Allison. In the minors, he played for the Buffalo Bisons and Louisville Colonels. Sam Mele. Earl Averill was a spare catcher. Averill batted .237 with 22 hits. He scored 12 runs, 6 doubles, 3 home runs, 14 RBIs, 14 walks in 42 games. Averill was born in 1931 in Cleveland, Ohio, and died in 2015 in Tacoma, Washington at age 83. For his career, he batted .242 with 249 hits and 44 home runs. He played for the Cleveland Indians, Chicago Cubs, Chicago White Sox, Los Angeles Angels, and Philadelphia Phillies from 1956 to 1963. He was commonly called Earl Averill Jr. to distinguish him from his father, Earl Averill, who was a Tribe star from 1929 to 1939. However, they had different middle names. He went to the University of Oregon and played on the Ducks baseball team. In 1962, he had a MLB record, which he shared with Piggy Award. He was on base by any means 17 consecutive times with the Angels. Averill is in the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame. He worked for the Everett Community College. He's also in the Everett Community College Athletic Hall of Fame. In the minors, he played for the Nashville Vols and Seattle Rainiers. Earl Averill. Dave Pope played some outfield. Pope batted .243 with 17 hits. He scored 6 runs, 3 doubles, a triple, 3 RBIs, a walk in 25 games. Pope was with Cleveland in 1952, and from 1954 to 1956. This was the end of his MLB career. Dave Pope. Rudi Regalado played some third base. Regalado batted .234 with 11 hits. He scored 4 runs, had a double, 2 RBIs, 4 walks in 16 games. Regalado was with Cleveland from 1954 to 1956. And this was the end of his MLB career. Rudi Regalado. Joe Caffey played some left field. Caffey batted .342 with 13 hits. He scored 7 runs, had an RBI, 3 stolen bases, 4 walks in 12 games. Caffey was born in 1931 in Raymer, Alabama, and died in 2011 in Warren, Ohio at age 80. For his playing career, he batted .291 with 3 home runs and 11 RBIs. He played for the Cleveland Indians from 1956 to 1957. They called him Rabbit. In the Negro Leagues, he played for the Cleveland Buckeyes. In the minors, he played for the Buffalo Bisons, Montreal Royals, St. Paul Saints, and Wilson Tobbs. Joe Caffey. Dale Mitchell played some left field. Mitchell batted .133 with 4 hits. He scored 2 runs, 6 RBIs, 7 walks in 38 games. Mitchell was with Cleveland from 1946 to 1956. 1956 was the end of his MLB career. Near the end of the 56 season, the Brooklyn Dodgers purchased Mitchell from Cleveland. And in Game 5 of the World Series at Yankee Stadium, Mitchell was the last batter in Don Larsen's perfect game and took a called third strike. That was his last MLB at-bat. Dale Mitchell. Kenny Kuhn was a middle infielder. Kuhn batted .273 with 6 hits. He scored 7 runs, had a double, 2 RBIs in 27 games. Kuhn was with Cleveland from 1955 to 1957. Kenny Kuhn. Stu Locken played some right field. Locken batted .167 with 1 hit and 6 at-bats. He struck out once in 9 games. Locken was with Cleveland from 1955 to 1956, and this was the end of his MLB career. Stu Locken. Hoot Everett did not have an official at-bat. He had 1 walk, scored a run in 3 games. Evers was with Cleveland from 1955 to 1956. And 1956 was the end of his MLB career. Hoot Evers. Bobby Young did not bat, but he got in one game, and Young was with Cleveland from 1955 to 1956. This was the end of his time in Cleveland. His MLB career continued until 1958. Bobby Young. Hank Foyles was a spare catcher. He did not have an official at bat and played in one game. Foyles was with Cleveland in 1953, from 1955 to 1956, and in 1960. Hank Foyles. Now the pitching staff was anchored by ace pitcher Earl Averill, who was 20-9 with an ERA of 2.72, 38 games, 35 starts, 18 complete games, 4 shutouts, 2 saves, 277 and 2/3 innings pitched, and 158 strikeouts. Wynn batted .228 with 23 hits. He scored 5 runs, had 5 doubles, a home run, 15 RBIs, a stolen base, 7 walks, and struck out 22 times. Wynn was with Cleveland from 1949 to 1957 and in 1963, and he played in the 1956 All-Star Game. Early Wynn. Bob Lemon was another 20-game winner. He went 20-14 with an ERA of 3.03, 39 games, 35 starts, 21 complete games, 2 shutouts, 3 saves, 255 and a third innings pitched, and 94 strikeouts. Lemon batted .194 with 18 hits. He scored 8 runs, had 5 home runs, 12 RBIs, 9 walks, struck out 21 times in 43 games. Lemon was with Cleveland from 1941 to 1942 and from 1946 to 1958 and was a Tribe coach in 1960. He got his 200th victory at the stadium on September 11th, a 3-1 victory against Baltimore. Bob Lemon. Herb Score was the Tribe's third 20-game winner in 1956. He was 20-9 with an ERA of 2.53, 35 games, 33 starts, 16 complete games, 5 shutouts, 249 and a third innings pitched, and 263 strikeouts. Score batted .184 with 16 hits. He scored 11 runs, had 3 doubles, a home run, 8 RBIs, 9 walks, and struck out 32 times. Scorer was a Tribe player from 1955 to 1959. He was a Tribe TV and radio broadcaster from 1964 to 1997. He played on the 1956 All-Star team. Years later, Rocky Colavito still called Score Roomie. They were roommates in the minor leagues. He also called Score the best friend I ever had in baseball. The best year for Herb Score, 1956. Herb Score. Mike Garcia was 11-12 with an ERA of 3.78, 35 games, 30 starts, 8 complete games, 4 shutouts, 197 and 2/3 innings pitched, and 119 strikeouts. Garcia batted .115 with 7 hits. He scored a run, had a double, 3 RBIs, 3 walks, and struck out 10 times. Garcia was with Cleveland from 1948 to 1959. Mike Garcia. Don Massey was the closer. Massey was 6-5 with an ERA of 3.59, 48 games, 3 starts, 11 saves, 87 and 2/3 innings pitched, and 59 strikeouts. Massey batted .150 with 3 hits and 20 at-bats. He scored a run, had 2 doubles, 2 RBIs, 2 walks, and struck out 10 times. And Massey was with Cleveland from 1954 to 1958. Don Massey. Cal McClish was another relief pitcher. McClish was 2-4 with an ERA of 4.96, 37 games, 2 starts, a save, 61 and 2/3 innings pitched, and 27 strikeouts. McClish batted .111 with 1 hit and 9 at-bats. He scored 2 runs, had a double, 2 RBIs, and walked 6 times. McClish was born in 1925 in Anadarko, Oklahoma, and died in 2010 in Edmond, Oklahoma at age 84. For his career, he was 92-92 with an ERA of 4.01 and 713 strikeouts. McClish played for the Brooklyn Dodgers, Pittsburgh Pirates, Chicago Cubs, Cleveland Indians, Cincinnati Reds, Chicago White Sox, and Philadelphia Phillies from 1944 to 1964. He was a coach for the Philadelphia Phillies, Montreal Expos, and Milwaukee Brewers from 1965 to 1982. He was an All-Star in 1959 with the Tribe. His full name was Calvin Coolidge Julius Caesar Tuscahoma McClish. His father was 3/4 Cherokee Indian. McClish was the 7th of eight children. In the Second World War, he was in the U.S. Army, and in 1945 was on the Western Front in Europe. In Venezuela, he played for Leones de Caracas for 2 seasons and hit .358 with Venezuela. As a coach with the Expos, he developed Carl Morton and Steve Renko. He was in MLB until 2005 as an instructor for the Seattle Mariners and died of leukemia. In the minors, he played for the Kansas City Blues. Cal McClish. Ray Narleski was another relief pitcher. Narleski was 3-2 with an ERA of 1.52, 32 games, 4 saves, 59 and a third innings pitched, and 42 strikeouts. Narleski batted .250 with 2 hits and 8 at-bats. He scored a run and walked once. Narleski was with Cleveland from 1954 to 1958, and he played in the 1956 All-Star Game. Ray Narleski. Bob Feller was 0-4 with an ERA of 4.97, 19 games, 4 starts, 2 complete games, a save, 58 innings pitched, and 18 strikeouts. Feller batted 16 times, did not have a hit. He walked once and struck out 9 times. Feller was with Cleveland from 1936 to 1941 and from 1945 to 1956. This was the end of his MLB career. He was a Tribe Goodwill ambassador till the end of his life. In 1957, Bob Feller's number 19 was retired, the first ever number to be retired by the Tribe. September 9th was Bob Feller Night at the stadium to honor him. Feller wrote, quote, "In 1956, I didn't win a game. It was time to go." He went on a 1971 Goodwill tour in Vietnam and visiting American troops, and he said, quote, For over a month, we visited the GIs at their combat posts, talked baseball, and cheered them up every way we could. We spent our nights in tents listening to the gunfire from the Viet Cong in the jungle next to us. We couldn't grab a gun and help them fight, but at least we could keep them company. Bob Feller was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1962 along with Jackie Robinson. Feller said, quote, "The Hall of Fame ceremonies were colorful, as they always are, with the red, white, and blue atmosphere and the beauty of upstate New York, where Washington Irving and James Fenimore Cooper wrote the novels that fascinated me back at Van Meter High School. Nobody loves his roots more than I love Iowa, but over the years Cleveland became my hometown instead of Van Meter. I've always enjoyed the change of seasons in Ohio and the environment of the Great Lakes region. The basic reason for my decision to stay in Cleveland was and is the people there. They've been great to me for 50 years. They've always been honest and above board with me. Over the years, I've grown to feel as close to the people of Cleveland as I do the people of Iowa. I coached all 3 of my sons in Little League Baseball. I made sure to emphasize the right priorities in coaching kids. Fun comes first. If it isn't fun for the kids and even for yourself, you're a failure as a coach. Every day is a new opportunity. You can build on yesterday's success or put its failures behind and start all over again. I got into baseball because I loved it. I still do. My dad once told me pitching baseball is like pitching hay. You just have to stay with it. He said he hoped I would stay in baseball a long time. I have. Dad would understand. So would Babe Ruth. Bob Feller. Art Houdeman was a relief pitcher. Houdeman was 2-2 with an ERA of 6.56, 22 games, 4 starts, a save, 46 and 2/3 innings pitched, and 19 strikeouts. Houdeman batted .167 with 2 hits and 12 at-bats. He had 2 RBIs and a stolen base. And Houdeman was with Cleveland from 1953 to 1957. Art Houdeman. Hank Geyer was 3-5 with an ERA of 3.72, 16 games, 9 starts, 2 complete games, a shutout, a save, 65 and a third innings pitched, and 31 strikeouts. Geyer batted .111 with 2 hits and 18 at-bats. He scored a run, had 2 RBIs, and struck out 11 times. Geyer was with Cleveland from 1955 to 1957. Hank Geyer. Bud Daly was 1-0 with an ERA of 6.20, 14 games, 20 and a third innings pitched, and 13 strikeouts. He had 2 at-bats and no hits. Daly was with Cleveland from 1955 to 1957. Bud Daly. And finally, Sal Magley had no decisions and an ERA of 3.60, 2 games, 5 innings pitched, and 2 strikeouts. He did not bat. Magley was with Cleveland from 1955 to 1956. This was the end of his time in Cleveland. His MLB career continued until 1958. He was sold to the Brooklyn Dodgers on May 13th and had a no-hitter on September 25th, and then was second in the in the Cy Young Award voting. He was the pitcher in Game 5 of the World Series for the Dodgers when the Yankees' Don Larson threw a perfect game. After the regular season, the New York Yankees, American League champions, defeated the Brooklyn Dodgers, National League champions, 4-3. This was the last All New York City's World Series until 2000 when the Yankees and Mets played. Game 5, Don Larson threw a perfect game for the Yankees. And there's the famous photograph. The last pitch is being thrown, and Billy Martin shows Billy Martin, the second baseman who became a famous manager for the Yankees in the 70s. And, of course, Dale Mitchell, former Cleveland Indian, was batting. Hall of Famers in the World Series included, for the Yankees, Casey Stengel, the manager, Yogi Berra, Whitey Ford, Mickey Mantle, and Enos Slaughter. For the Dodgers, Walt Alston, the manager, Sandy Koufax, who did not play, Pee Wee Reese, Jackie Robinson, and Duke Snider. In Game 7, the Yankees won 9-0, and Dodger manager Walt Alston said, quote, "They beat the hell out of us." Again, Mickey Mantle won the Triple Crown and challenged Babe Ruth's 60 home run record. Mantle said, quote, "Not a day went by that year, especially on days when I had hit a home run or did something special, that I didn't think of my dad and wished he'd gotten to live long enough to see it." Now, the MVPs for 1956 were Mickey Mantle for the New York Yankees, who, of course, was the Triple Crown winner, and Don Newcombe for the Brooklyn Dodgers, who also won the first Cy Young Award. There was only one award given for both leagues, and unfortunately, Don Newcombe pitched Game 7 of the 1956 World Series and got hit hard. Felt pretty bad about that, so that was unfortunate, but a tremendous year for Don Newcombe. So that's the story of the 1956 Cleveland Indians. They had a tremendous year. God bless the guys who played for the Cleveland Indians in 1956 and everyone else associated with the team, including the fans, especially the First World War veterans, Second World War veterans, and Korean War veterans. Captains of the Cuyahoga, lovers of Lake Erie, Terminal Tower Power, fans of the Free Stamp statue and the Fountain of Eternal Life, Euclid Avenue Electricity, Severance Hall Stalwarts, Cleveland Museum of Art enthusiasts, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Museum rebels, Christmas Story House Happy People, Museum of Contemporary Art maniacs, Cleveland Botanical Garden goers, Old Arcade admirers, Playhouse Square seers, Settlers Landing Park purists, Western Reserve Historical Society wonders, First Energy Stadium friends, Progressive Field pals, Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse renegades, Cuyahoga Valley National Park pioneers, Great Lakes Science Center supporters, Holden Arboretum enjoyers, Tribe, Browns, Cavs, Monsters, Gladiators, and Fusion Rule, and Spiders, Bulldogs, Rosenblums, Barons, Rams, Crusaders, Forest Crunch, Lumberjacks, and Rockers rule in memory. Cleveland, City of Champions. Cleveland is the best location in the nation on the north coast of America. New York is the Big Apple. Cleveland is a plum. It's been 71 years since 1948. Go Tribe. This is our year. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. God bless you. Take care. And I'll see you next time.